What the fuck? Is that guy over there smoking weed? Not on my watch. Nobody's breaking the law on my watch. Fuck that. Fuck that shit.
Hey,
Hello? I need to report a crime.
hey, 911, that's my shit. The boys in blue, yeah, that's my clique. 911, that's my shit. The boys in the blue, yeah, that's my clique. I'm a snitch, I'll run and tell on you, you bitch. I'm a snitch, I'll run and tell on you, you bitch. I'm a snitch, I'll run and tell on you, you bitch. I'm a snitch, I'm a snitch, If I see you dealing drugs on my motherfucking block, I'm gonna pick up my phone and call them motherfucking cops. Yeah, the cops are cool and the cops protect us. Even though they shoot at us, you bet they respect us. I love the police are my friends. Even though they killed my neighbor's son, who was only 10. Yeah, stop dealing pot, cause it is against the law. Yeah, I need you to stop, cause it's not a real job. Yeah, 911, that's my shit. The boys in blue, yeah, that's my clique. 911, that's my shit. The boys in the blue, yeah, that's my clique. I'm a snitch, I'll run and tell on you, you bitch. I'm a snitch, I'll run and tell on you, you bitch. I'm a snitch, I'll run and tell on you, you bitch. I'm a snitch, I'm a snitch, If I see you smoke pot, I'm gonna fucking leave. No, I don't wanna watch you smoke your silly little weed. Yeah, everybody knows I'm a fucking tattletale. If I see you break the rules, I will put your ass in jail. Yeah, shout out to the cops who protect and serve, and who beat up the criminals who never fucking learn. Yeah, bitch, I love cops, I'ma suck all their dicks. Got a Blue Lives Matter tat on my fucking ribs. Yeah, 911, that's my shit. The boys in blue, yeah, that's my clique. 911, that's my shit. The boys in the blue, yeah, that's my clique. I'm a snitch, I'll run and tell on you, you bitch. I'm a snitch, I'll run and tell on you, you bitch. I'm a snitch, I'll run and tell on you, you bitch. I'm a snitch, I'm a snitch,
Yeah, everybody out there who's hating on the police, look, man, they put their lives on the line for us every day, sitting there all day in their Dodge Chargers. Yeah, I don't fucking know. Fuck cops.
You been on your shit, I told him, yeah. Back in school, they never said what's up. Used to drop them downers in my cup. I was lonely walking to the bus. Lately, they said I ain't been the same. I flourished so distorted, switching lanes. I've been so contorted, mental games. Late night, she be lurking on my page. Told her, baby girl, just cut the chase. I went from rock bottom to first place. That's why you been all up in my face. Needed help finding myself, but you was gone without a trace. I built myself back up, it didn't happen in a day. Never cast a stone because I'm sinning every day. Got some fallen homies, when I think of them I pray. The demons keep on calling me cause I was so astray. They never went away, they've been feeding off the hate. But my crew all been way up, keep it tight knit to this date. Rich boys collective, bitch this shit just feel like fate. Feel like fate. Don't believe in pearly gates. I sit and wait, patient looking for a way. Lot on my plate, pressure won't evaporate. I contemplate competition, I assassinate. You been on your shit, I told him yup. Back in school they never said what's up. Used to drop them downers in my cup. I was lonely walking to the bus. Guess that's why you're you, that's why I'm me. Ain't shit in this life that comes for free. Swerving, pouring soda with my team. Cruising 395, she rolled a green. I've been plotting visions, plotting schemes. Run away and turn our backs, just you and me. Only thing we got in common, niggas bleed. Run up on my crew, we get indeed. Keep the peace because we keep the peace. Counting up them blues, just call me beast. Rich boys tatted on me cause we on the brink. Girl, you on my mind, I never think about these other thoughts. Giving all they got, just to steal our shine. Cause girl, our love don't cost. Just love to see you smile whenever we be crossed. I was in denial, I was in my thoughts. Shouts out to my fam, shouts out to my squad. Held me down through hard times, now I'm thanking God. Shouts out to my fam, shouts out to my squad. Held me down through hard times, now I'm thanking God. You been on your shit, I told him yup. Back in school they never said what's up. Used to drop them downers in my cup. I was lonely walking to the bus. You been on your shit, I told him yup. Back in school they never said what's up. Used to drop them downers in my cup.
The time is now. Planets align as I spit. I've been gone for too long, not willing to submit. Too much shit happened in my absence. I'm frantic, writing too many songs, hoping one could be a classic. It's like magic, lyrics is like gastric. Cause when I'm through with a line, you lose 9 pounds that quick. You oughta BK, you oughta random. My battle rifle uptight, don't make it have a tantrum. I spit freely to the beat as the bass kick. Step to the majors, a funeral, nigga, face split. The snare breaks loud as I create shit. You have no rebuttal, please don't try to debate shit. You have no place crowded and cold at the bottom. Let me help you out, Supreme blanket made of cotton. Ask your girlfriend, I don't ever wear a condom. Aborted, another odyssey could be a major problem. Y'all team is mad gay, y'all smoking regs and shit. You're lactose intolerant, we milking eggs, bitch. I'm Scott Pilgrim, your bitch is Ramona Flowers. She begged for the hoes I knows, let me douse her. King Kong swag, white women in my palm, but they high maintenance. Spa treatment at the palm, living life fast. Taking one day at a time, my clock is a metronome, so I keep tempo with my rhymes. I'm the Skrilla, I hustle hard cause I got to. Oh, you're too hot to handle? So that's why they drive you. I'm pretty sure this is your elegy of emptiness. Yes, very certain I am the threat to your sense of cleanliness. It's next to godliness. Well, this is Darwinism. You need to evolve, you're not perfect, no narcissism. Not Tom York, but believe I'll leave you scatterbrained. I'm the wolf at the door, you better hope you have some wolf shame. This style is unique, y'all peaked, you cannot ascertain why we make it rain and it burns cause it's acid rain. Same as a slaughterhouse, just about as inhumane. Mad cow disease, why your moms get mad every day? Point blank, 2 shots fired at your temple. No, not the synagogue or your blog at your mental vessel. Cough up the shekels and the pencils and the Skrilla. Wallets on the ground, hands in the sky, you know the dealer. Word to my bitch, word to my ex. Word to you niggas who thinking you next and you thinking you flex. I flex harder than y'all. Keep on the block and get hotter than y'all. Proper than y'all. Never hit a bitch cause a nigga don't hit unless she calling you pimp. Crawling, she limp. Back to the bed. Walk outside, seen the good year blimp. Ayy, it's a good year, ain't it? Fucking take a picture, you might as well frame it. Shouts to the world, everybody who claim it. Someone tell my mama we made it. Never hate it. Fuck what K said. I'll treat you motherfuckers like K-Fed. No wasted. I'm trippy, man. Dawg, they can't believe like Ripley, man. No strictly, no bitch asses. Only count money while I slap bitch asses. That classic. 7 tray. Couldn't give a fuck what the fuck you say. Fuck niggas stay. Don't get blasted. Stack my cards and they all holographic. Blow Jurassic. Get your money Cyrus. Fuck God if the nigga love pious. I sold my soul for a gold plated chopper, boy. And who you speaking to, you better come proper, boy. She bop, hit the pussy time after time. I'm on my doomsday, I got rhymes like dimes. If you ain't familiar with the lie familiar,
No fear in my heart, nigga, I will kill you.
Dirty South for real, represent the truth.
Who the fuck dumb enough to ride or die with you?
I slide through, you don't want the pressure.
You don't want the heat, none whatsoever.
Come together, nigga, stay off.
Squad up, gon' let the AK off. My contortionist, MC push me too far, then I start frenzy. Too good for these rappers, so they might envy. 118, watch me spark their team. I don't spark no green, I keep my mind clear. Their man running when my man near. When I approach, I sense fear, so I put my attack into high-end gear. When I sharpen my spear and I'm aiming them, spray heat waves, something like uranium. These men think they hot boys, I come on a block, boy. Watch how I'm motherfucking flaming them. Animals run loose, no taming them. Going straight ape shit, cause we bathing them. In that terrible division, 10 deep, so I'm standing in this kind of heat, how they sustaining us. They blaming us for causing mischief. Pandemic's an understatement when I'm spreading chaos like a fucking misfit. Quite frankly, I just never give shits, and I never give fucks, and I never give up, cause these other kids suck, and I'm trying to get up, trying to get known, trying to get blown. Take it to Manchester, then I'm bringing it home. Ex bitch, why the fuck is you hitting my phone? Wouldn't pick up if you was giving that dome. Yo, act is old and that's factual. Fantastic hoe, you're practical.
If you ain't familiar with the lie familiar,
No fear in my heart, nigga, I will kill you.
Dirty South for real, represent the truth.
Who the fuck dumb enough to ride or die with you?
I slide through, you don't want the pressure.
You don't want the heat, none whatsoever.
Come together, nigga, stay off.
Squad up, gon' let the AK off.
If you ain't familiar with the lie familiar.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, nice to finally talk with you.
Yeah. Kept on getting pushed back because schedules are busy.
I know. Oh my
crazy.
god. Yeah, I was planning on doing like stuff this weekend, and then just ended up being like Christmas stuff after other Christmas stuff. So
Yeah. So I've been watching the content for a while. It's really good.
my content.
Yeah, your content, Bad Empanada, Hasan, a lot of different people. Usually, I'm to give an introduction, I guess, to anyone who's listening.
Oh, here, let me start recording. I actually haven't started recording yet.
Oh, okay.
All right, ready, go. Yeah. All right. So yeah, introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is James Emery. I make content on YouTube. I'm super duper minuscule small, like 112 subscribers on YouTube small.
Okay.
But yeah, I like to. I do strictly streams. I don't make any videos or anything. I strictly stream on YouTube exclusively, and most of my content is kind of more drama-ish than uninformed leftists. But I try to go into each thing that I'm interested in, and actually learn about the stuff a lot more in depth, and try to give a perspective that's fair, even if I say, like, for example, if like I'm reviewing something that Destiny has done and I don't like Destiny, I try to still review it within a fair margin of like, what do I actually think about the topic instead of like just a blindfold rage. I'm an equal opportunist content creator in terms of
Yeah.
who I'm
That's
criticizing.
probably like the best way to kind of go into doing drama stuff. And did you say that you do video games, or do you are your streams like kind of reaction stuff, or like what is a general stream for you?
So a general stream, like for example, it kind of depends on what I'm into, because I don't do this for money. If I made money, like cool, but like it is basically what am I into? So like for example, I did like one research stream where it was like I want to learn more about like like the in-depth stuff about like trans gender and how to learn more about how to argue about that, or like just learn more of like what they're going through, or like whatever specific dramas going on that I'm interested in. I did go over like the 15-year-old female school shooters manifesto. I read a little bit about that. It just
yeah?
kind of
How was
depends.
that?
Like I'm a kind of variety guy.
That's cool. Yeah, and like one thing that I've kind of realized is that like if you see someone like Hassan or Kyle Kalinske or other people, you're like, oh well, how can I recreate that? And essentially, like it's impossible to kind of recreate success stories that you see and get inspired by, and it's kind of up to you to just kind of forge your own path. And people are going to watch you because you're you. They're not going to watch you because you're Hassan or something else like that. So, yeah, like having different content, I think, is a good idea in general.
Yeah, my philosophy is basically like just do what I enjoy, and if people want to watch, they want to watch. Like it'll come in time or whatever. Like don't really trip about
Yeah.
it. Like if you're not making money, if you're not invested in terms of I need like income or whatever, then you do it as a hobby. Then if you're good enough and people are interested enough, they'll come to you in time. But otherwise, it's like just treat it as fun or just like something to invest your time in. I contacted you mainly because I was more interested in learning about how to combat misinformation, or what kind of reliable sources that you yourself kind of grab from to be able to not only be more knowledgeable, but when somebody's spouting off some bullshit straightforwardly, that you're able to like a little bit more quick-wittedly be like, oh yeah, I can call him on this, even when it's something like a Willie Mack's video.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, because you said you were looking at Willie Mack's video, right?
yeah. The last video that he did, which was the response to quote unquote Hassan's lies, I found myself struggling a little bit because I don't think I had the knowledge quite enough to be able to counter it quite correctly, or to the extent that I'm comfortable with, about the Hassan's Russian takes, like Ukraine Russian takes, and the China Tibet takes a little bit. So I think where I'm a little bit paralyzed, more so specifically, is within the China Tibetan takes, in terms of is it technically like a true thing that there's a little bit of hypocrisy in Hassan's take? I'm not sure. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, there's something that feels disconnected there for me when I really think about that one. What was your
Right.
take on that?
Well, to be honest, I didn't really have a take on Hassan with Tibet, and there's kind of like, and when I cover this like YouTube drama-y stuff where it's like, oh, this one guy said this, is like, should we jump on him? Should we call
Yeah,
him out for saying that? It's like, well, the first thing you need to do is find out if the person actually said what they're being accused of saying. So, like with Hassan and Ethan Klein is accusing Hassan of being anti-Semitic, but then, well, not really being anti-Semitic, but creating anti-Semitism, which is essentially the same thing.
sure. Yeah.
Like, if you're creating anti-Semitism, that like, what's the difference between that and genuinely being anti? But whatever. So it's like, so is Hassan anti-Semitic? And then we can kind of analyze what he's doing there. Like, is the claim actually true? What is Hassan's claim when it comes to Israel? Is his claim that we should kill all of the Jews that live in Israel? And then the only real way to understand that is to devote time to understanding Hassan.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like with Ethan too. When I first heard that Ethan was like calling Hassan anti-Semitic, I'm like, okay, well, is Ethan actually calling Hassan that? And I dedicated the time to watch all of Ethan's videos, and I've pretty much at least kept tabs a little bit on all of Ethan's podcasts since that first like anti-Hassan podcast. And I've devoted a lot of time to actually understanding what Ethan is saying about Hassan. And then I have an accurate picture in what Ethan's position is. And then the other thing when it comes to Tibet and stuff like that, to find out, like, obviously first you need to understand what Hasan is saying, and then secondly you need to understand what the hell is like going on in Tibet. And to be honest, I don't have the best like base knowledge of China's colonization of Tibet. But it does seem to me like it's a pretty clear-cut colonization by China.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't be the first time China colonized like a neighboring region. Um, and then from there, it's like, okay, we understand the situation. Now, what is the best course of action? Which is, it's really interesting. And when we're talking about China, it's like always going to be a sticky situation because the United States is not going to be incentivized to really protect any of these minorities that China is colonizing, just like they're not incentivized to protect Palestinians. So,
I think,
like,
yeah, because I felt more comfortable with being like with a Willie Mack video. It's easy to see how people get a little bit more brainwashed or kind of just kind of buying into what's being said, because if your level of investment is basically out of context clips, or even like clips that are a little bit more in context but framed a specific way by a detractor, it seems like that's like a extremely hard thing to like pull yourself out of if you're invested in thinking a specific way. So like one thing I've realized is I used to be in the Destiny space a little bit more, not actually in the servers or anything like that. I wasn't like that hardcore, but I watched a lot of his content. And one thing I realized was like when you're getting out of it or whatever, it's like, okay, like they criticize Hasan for the America bad take, basically, where it's like, oh, like everything's kind of framed within this like, philosophy of America always bad, which is ironic because considering how they, focus heavily onto Hasan, it seems like it's more so like a Hasan bad kind of perspective. And I've never been like the strongest hater, even when I didn't like Hasan. I think there's still takes I disagree with him on vehemently. But like, I've always never, I do understand, but I've always never understood the intense passion of obsession with hating him as well. I looked into his content myself because I like to try to be fair to people, and like I found like the exact opposite being the case, even if like I never 100% agreed with every single take he had.
yeah. Yeah, and Hassan kind of rubs people the wrong way. It's like he's kind of brash. He has that like bro-y persona. He's not kind of the most intellectual leftist, like, because I know Vosh and Destiny are both like debate bro type of people, and they're like, oh, I've thought through all of my arguments and I can debate it down to the minutia. And Hassan's like, I'm not gonna debate it, and I'm just gonna like, if I'm going to talk politics, I'm going to discuss it as a human being, unless there's an actual like I'm going to discuss politics with another person and treat them like they're a real human being,
Yeah.
unless there's actually something to be like politically gained by making this person look like a laughingstock. So, do I think Hassan would talk to Ben Shapiro the same way he talked to that kid from Cambridge? I don't think so. And like same with what's that guy's name? Christian Walker. When like everyone's like, oh, Hassan got wrecked in that debate with Christian Walker.
Mm-hmm.
But like again, he's trying to just talk with him like a human. And then when he goes with Andrew Tate and talks with him there, he's just like making fun of him kind of the entire time. So like, yeah, I would say Hassan has a good understanding of the purpose of debates on the political sphere,
Yeah.
where it's like it's kind of like that blob game where if you absorb someone else, your blob grows. And it's like if he's up against a bigger blob, then he'll try to attack it. But if he's going up against like a smaller blob, he just doesn't really care.
I think like one thing when I really like Destiny's content and I agreed with him mostly is that I found myself, I had a mindset of And maybe this is what a lot of people feel. I guess if they're the protagonist of the story or they're like favorite content creator, like they want to frame them as the protagonist of the story, is that if you are getting tons of vehement like disagreement and a load of hate from all sides, like the right, the left, or like however you want to frame it exactly, you must be doing something right. You must be saying something right. And I think that's like a perspective that people in the DGG space kind of have about Destiny, is that, oh, look how many people he's pissing off. Like, look how diverse it is too. Like, you know, he must be saying something that is just genuinely right for the most part. And I must be on the right side. So there's a little bit more passion to it as well, where, you know, they feel like they're on the right side of history. Like it becomes a little bit more cultish in that dynamic. While I think I noticed that Hasan is a lot more lax with, like, if you agree with me, you agree with me. That's great. Like, I want people to agree with me, but I don't want to treat it like a cult dynamic. I don't want to foster an environment of toxicity and, like, abusing that community.
Yeah, that's a good. I would say that's like a good way of describing the difference between Hasan and Destiny.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to matter too. I don't know how much you know about Destiny, but yeah, there is a ton where it's like, oh wow, like there's like actually a pattern of behavior with like women or whatever too, where it becomes like,
oh really,
actually genuinely disturbing. I don't want to linger too much on Destiny further from this point, but like genuinely, there's a big somebody wrote a report. Essentially, that person's a pretty controversial figure, so he got disregarded pretty quickly. But one of the many things is that there was this specific individual that Destiny had on stream. She was more of a small streamer / fan. Most of her audience was from Destiny's community, and what ended up happening is they got into a conflict, and it escalated into much more than what it needed to be. And one of the things he ended up doing was there was a public persona of like there was a public narrative of like, she's my stalker, like don't like talk to her, don't mention her, like I'm afraid of her, stuff like that. But in the background, he's privately still engaging in sexual like conversations with her. And when she asked him repeatedly, hey, can you clear up my image or whatever? I just don't want people like thinking of me as a stalker anymore since we're on good terms. He would use that to be like, okay, like tease me, like give me sexual images, and maybe I'll do something about that. So like it's actually it's pretty disturbing stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of creepy. Yeah, I've kept like a pretty wide berth of Destiny throughout my time on YouTube, like just content creation. Honestly, doing content has brought me into closer proximity with Destiny just because of his stuff on Israel, and then I covered his interview on Adam Friedland.
Yeah.
And oh my God, just that like 40-minute long interview with Adam Friedland is pretty gross. Like basically the vibe I got from him there is he'll kind of do anything just to have a debate, and he doesn't really care about the issues. I mean, he literally said he's going to debate with Ben Shapiro and try to maintain relationships with him. He wanted to do it with kitty gloves with Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
And then also, yeah, the kind of vibe that he had about women, like what you're talking about, really kind of reinforces the vibe that I was getting in that Adam Friedland interview, where he's like, yeah, I can get women by debating. Like I'll debate and then my DMs will be full. Or he'll be like, yeah, well, if I'm on a date with a woman, I'm gonna debate her into sleeping with me. I'm like, holy shit, this is some toxic mentality. And I know that he'll like retreat back to, well, these are just jokes, but I'm of the belief that like all jokes come from a place of internal truth for someone. And so if you're saying it as a joke, it's like, okay, well, like that's an idea that you've at least been like sampling in your mind. It's been like bouncing around the walls of your brain.
Yeah. Again, not to linger too much on him because I'm going to drop it a little bit. Yeah, my one and only interaction with him, I debated him once about how he keeps his connections and bridges or whatever, and how they seem to like be destroyed ultimately. And, you know, like it's like a seasoned debater versus like somebody who's like, like I don't really debate like for a living or some shit.
Right. Yeah.
So obviously it's like you're not going to be framed in a hostile area, especially you're not going to be framed as like the one correct or whatever. But like one of the things I said basically was like, yeah, it seems like to kind of be a habit where like you don't seem to get along with people in general, and eventually like those relationships deteriorate. And he listed a bunch of examples, and I found it really interesting that he did this, where he was like, well, my relationships with Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro are okay, like
Oh
like
my God.
like it was really weird, especially since like those don't seem to be intact, especially now. So like it is quite funny in retrospect, stuff like that like ages pretty
Oh yeah, he must have lost. He must have blown up his bridge with Candace Owens when he visited Israel.
yeah. I
Since
just
Candace Owens is like, I am the anti-Semite of the year.
so it's like I don't know. There's this thing in my mind too, though, that like I hated him even before the Israel stuff happened, but there was something that broke my mind where I started to think of not just him, but like the entire space that I had been participating in small ways here or there, where it's like, oh shit, like wow, like it's like not just jokes at a certain point. It's not just edgy humor at a certain point. There are people who genuinely will go to lengths of defending or denying genocide unironically when it's very blatant, and it disturbed me very deeply. Yeah, like I don't know, like it's so strange. I had never, me personally, if I'm being upfront about my like political affiliations, like what do I believe in politically? I don't pretend to have like a super in-depth knowledge enough to be feeling comfortable with saying, oh, I'm a liberal, oh, I'm a leftist, oh, I'm this, I'm that.
Yeah.
I guess if like lately, especially if I had to say like closer, maybe leftist. I don't know. Like, but the point is like I feel like there's this blanket statement that I have where it's like, there's basic morality things like I thought that everyone agreed upon, and it seems like people aren't really following that in the space, and it's like there's a growing. Is it just me, or is it everywhere? I don't think even in the space, but there's a growing apathy or a moral callousness that's like growing. Is that just me? What do you think about that?
No, I think you're definitely right. Like, yeah, growing up, it used to seem like, oh yeah, everyone get along, treat others how you want to be treated, and
Yeah.
now it really just seems kind of like a rat race where people are grabbing up as much kind of power as they can and then pulling the ladder up behind them. It's like it's gotten to the point where if you say sharing is caring, now you're going to be called out woke.
Yeah. I was just thinking to myself like, oh wow, like unironically, sometimes I'll say something where it's a basic moral principle or it's a basic moral statement, and it's like, oh, that's soy, like that's not Giga Chad, that's like you're being soy, and it's like framed through this idea of like I'm a loser for trying to have some common decent moral principles, and it's just like mind warped me in another realm where I think what's happened too is I'm trying to find this balance to where I don't lose that myself. Especially if you're in a space like that, like you can, it's easy to kind of get lost in the sauce of, well, everyone's doing this. Why don't I just morally deteriorate a little bit and, start acting like them, because, it's like a self-defense mechanism almost.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting, like maintaining your morality, because I can definitely see how you would kind of. I mean, it's almost like you're getting sucked into a rabbit hole, but the rabbit hole is just the internet and just the fact that there's like zero charitability for anyone on the internet.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been like very conscious about when I've been doing this channel, trying to maintain a level of just kind of niceness for not only for myself and the people that I talk to, but also the kind of content that I bring to people. And I'm trying to be very aware of like the community that I'm creating. And I do read the comments. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I feel like at my size it's a good thing. And I've been really proud because I honestly think that the best people from the H3 podcast left that podcast, and I've been very fortunate to get a lot of them watching my stuff.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I feel like Ethan Klein did me a good favor by like filtering out the people with consciousness or like with a conscience, and they went to watch other stuff like that. And I think like a good positive community in an online space is extremely important
Yeah,
in maintaining that kind of morality system.
I'm also trying to find that level of engagement when I do spot something that's happening with people, and I'm like, oh, this person's like actually turning into a pretty bad person, and like I say something, I criticize that to people who don't recognize that immediately, and then over time they recognize that, they're like, sorry, man, like I should have recognized it earlier. I'm also like questioning in my mind is like, if I could have like given this criticism in a less maybe aggressive way or a more nuanced way, maybe like this would have like fell through people's heads a little bit sooner too. But I also think it's like important to kind of be honest with how it makes you feel that people will stoop to those levels. So it's hard to really find that balance of like, do I want to really be aggressive and like do that to that extremity, or like do I want to find that middle ground? But it also feels like sometimes when you find that middle ground, you're almost potentially giving them like a pass and making their actions seem like less bad than they actually are.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that that kind of the level of kind of hardness that you go after someone really determines, or it should really be determined off of the kind of the amount of power and agency they have in kind of making the world a worse place. So
Yeah.
when I cover Ben Shapiro or even Shuon Head, like these massive channels, I'm very uncharitable towards them because first of all, they've kind of established that they are bad faith actors, like they have a history of lying. And secondly, they have a very wide reach, and you kind of need to be very harsh when you cover people like that because I don't think there's much to be gained in saying, okay, well, like I can kind of see both sides of their argument. You kind of just have to call them out for what they are, which is conservative propaganda. And yes, I'm lumping Shoe on Head in with that. I don't know if you saw my Shoe on Head videos, but her audience hates me when I talk about her.
I don't know if I've seen those. I've mostly watched I think all the Ethan ones and a couple of the other ones that were more related to Palestine. I think I may have seen one Shoe on Head video, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that person is deeply, deeply pathetic in a lot of ways.
But then
Weirdly enough,
I was
that was
talking.
kind of like back then. It was kind of like what interested me about Destiny's content is that it did seem like that's what he was going for at first, is to kind of show the like people that were full of shit, you know, like bring them on, like totally like own them in the marketplace of ideas, showing that they don't actually know what the fuck they're talking about. They're usually just talking up their ass and like it's for money essentially. But you know,
Right.
yeah.
But it's like, would Destiny ever get someone like Shoe on Head on?
Back then he
Someone
would have. I
big
think
of a
even to
subscriber
be
base.
fair to him, I think even today he probably would because he does. He's every time he's ever spoken about her, he's displayed like contempt for her. So like, if not
I
for
mean,
anything,
I
it
don't
would be
think
for
she's
content for sure.
I don't think she's very intellectually honest, but
No, she's not. Yeah,
like my point about Destiny is that yeah, he has no problem ripping into extremely small content creators. And sure, if they have some bullshit that they're spewing, that's great for Destiny to call them out
yeah,
and like squashing conservative channels. However, I would say Destiny calls out leftists just just as much as he calls out conservatives. And when he finally does have a chance to uh, talk with a major conservative figure like Jordan Peterson, like Ben Shapiro, what does he do? He says, well, the only way I was able to talk with them was by promising that I would wear kitty gloves. It's like, okay, well, you could have lied. You could have said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be nice to them," and then gone in and ripped them to shreds. The only reason he didn't do that is because he wanted to maintain that relationship and get more views by going on their show again and again.
Yeah, I think he even
So
said so himself. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
yeah, so like Destiny doesn't really have a problem with ripping into people unless they actually are powerful. And really the only powerful people that he cares about are like powerful conservatives because there's no real powerful leftist people. It's like Hasan is the powerful leftist person and Destiny's built a career targeting him.
Yeah, I kind of I had a conversation. I want to get your opinion on this. I had
Yeah,
a
go for it.
conversation that turned a little bit more aggressive. I mean, overall, it wasn't the end of the world, but it was basically about how it was like there was a dismissal kind of they said basically that Destiny and Hasan have like basically no impact politically, and like if you take it to the realm of do they have a impact in terms of are they going to be able to make enough of a dent to determine who's going to be the next president or something crazy like that? Obviously not. But like to suggest that there's no impact of like they could potentially do movements like little canvassing things or whatever, get enough fans donating charity to specific causes, bringing out their content to like change minds and stuff like that. There's enough of an audience there for both people, especially Hasan, to make somewhat of a dent. Otherwise, people like AOC wouldn't, be like ever going on their show. Congressmen wouldn't be trying to participate in smearing Hasan as an anti-Semite with, Destiny and his audience. What is your take on the overall impact online politics, like mostly like places like that, have on politics in general? I feel like Elon made a huge dent with specific aspects of online politics.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, how valuable is the online? And I think at this point, like, it's undeniably very powerful.
Yeah.
With, like, okay, so when people talk about online space, they're usually comparing it to kind of cable news, like NBC, CNN, Fox News, stuff like that. And the fact of the matter is, like, the performances of these cable news shows has dropped so much where it's almost comparative to online spaces now, where there's just as many people watching like leftist progressive shows on YouTube
Yeah.
as watch cable news. My mom, she watches all of these online networks. She watches Midas Touch, she watches Kyle Kalinske. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
she does not watch cable news anymore.
Yeah, I think
And-
Kyle Kalinski's been making a pretty good point recently where it does seem like certain people who are bending the knee to Trump that were more liberal, calling Trump a Hitler, are losing their audiences to smaller online, YouTubers like him or smaller outlets in general on the online space. So as the more that stuff happens, the bigger I think the potential for like certain personalities to grow and grow, especially leftist personalities, I would say.
Yeah, I just think it's undeniable at this point that people like Hasan and Kyle Kalinske and the Majority Report, not to mention like the conservative, like quote unquote independent media spaces like the Daily Wire and the guys on Rumble and Joe Rogan and stuff like that. I think it's undeniable that they are having a major impact on the election. I mean, you said yourself, like Elon Musk had a pretty major pull this election, and Twitter was in large part because of it, because people are going away from these more traditional media spaces like cable news.
Yeah, you could
So
easily say like at first it's like and it was really goofy. It's like, okay, like he said he was going to buy Twitter, but then he was forced to buy Twitter because or whatever, like like it ended up being an L turned into a W because of how he utilized it in a specific way to basically like bot a specific narrative all over the place. And so that
Oh,
really,
it's
really helped
crazy.
in growing MAGA.
It's crazy. It's like Elon Musk suddenly on like a flip got or a switch got flipped in his mind, and now he's like, "Oh, I can buy elections. Like, let me just do this. That's my new business. Buying elections is Elon's new business." So, he spent like what $44 billion on Twitter, or what did he say? Like 420? Was that his like meme
So I
buy?
have no idea.
Or it's like
If it's him,
40 billion.
immaturity, he's like the definition of immaturity. It's like 420 meme, 69 Doge
Right.
bullshit. Like, yeah.
So he does that, and it's like, and then he spent like 150 million on the election, and his net worth has like doubled since the election. It's like an insane return on investment because he's just buying the election now. Like he's gotten so big that he can just buy elections and get his money back because of it. So yeah, that is really scary to me. And even though like maybe people are going to say that, oh yeah, well, Hasan doesn't do any on the ground organizing or anything like that, but I think the value of people like Hasan and the Majority Report and Kyle Kalinske is that they do inform people's ideas and opinions, and like they are a pretty good source of news, I would say too. So people can get their sources of news from these people, and then they can also have a good analysis of the news. And hopefully people in like everyday jobs that kind of the country is relying on them to run smoothly, like people that show up and they're in traffic control or
Yeah.
go to the hospital and stuff like that, like just kind of disseminating that information and kind of good politics throughout the country is a really important aspect of political change in my opinion. And yes, we definitely need also people to be on the ground and organizing. Um, but I think like just having that kind of positive reinforcement from progressive voices online is super important. And like it's only going to become more important as cable news continues to decline, as people get even more online, which is it's crazy to say, but it's like yeah, as I don't know what generation you are, but like I'm like the oldest of the Gen Z people. And like my generation's really online, but
Yeah.
the generation after them is even more online. Like my little cousins, who's like 12 years old, he just lives all day on his iPad and stuff. And it's like, okay, I was not on my iPad at 12 years old. I was just like playing with the sticks and bricks in the backyard.
I used to have a perspective of like politics are boring. Maybe I think like in retrospect, I probably had this perspective mainly because politics can be quite depressing and complicated at times. And it's like it's easier to be more invested in like your Marvel slop or your dumb like things that makes you happy, in your life than seeing like congressmen or like remembering the names of like what people do what and yeah blah blah blah. But
Oh yeah.
as time goes on, it does become more interesting, but also it's still it becomes more depressing than you thought it was going to be because it's like, oh, what like wait, hold on, really, like these people are in charge? Are you fucking like, I thought we had a little bit of more competence, like just a tiny bit. Really? Are you serious? There's actually somebody who thinks like Jewish space lasers. Like, what is going on?
Right. No, yeah, it's like it's one of these things where you look at it or you grow up and you're like, "Oh, politics, it's simple, just like or it's like, okay, yeah, just have the government run smoothly. It should like you grow up and you're like, these are the three branches of government. This is how it works. There's like the state level, the federal level, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait a second, this is extremely complicated. What side should I be on? It's so nuanced. And then you're like, wait a second. One one political party wants to give free lunches to kids. The other half wants to ban giving free lunches to kids. It's not actually that complicated who I should support.
It's like,
But
unironically, the meme is like real too, where it's like, we just care about money. It's like oligarchs. Like, what the fuck? Holy shit. Like, these people actually have way more control than I initially thought. And it's like mind breaking.
yeah.
And it's also
scary.
this weird perspective where it's like this unironic like destiny attitude where it's like the cuck attitude where it's like the MAGA right will basically be like, the problem is like immigrants or LGBTQ, like they're part of the problem of like what's going on in our like shitty lives right now, like why we can't afford healthcare and shit like that, or like basic necessities. And it's like, no, dude, like you guys are worshiping the people who are causing those problems for you, are a contributor to it at the very least. Like I don't. It's like 2 + 2 = 4, and somehow it's like, no, it equals fucking 59 or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it is definitely an issue. Like just getting people to vote for their interests is it's concerning that it's like the Republicans are this bad and they still just won an election that a lot of people are considering a landslide. So like I definitely want to commend you on starting your YouTube channel. Like that's kind of why I started my YouTube channel. Um, I think it is important to have people like pushing progressive ideas, not even necessarily saying, okay, call your senator, tell them to vote for this bill, or being that explicit about it, but just being like, yeah, I think gay people shouldn't get burned alive. I think that we shouldn't deport every like brown person we see, whether they're here legally or not.
Yeah.
Just like saying that, and even that at this point does feel a little bit brave. Like there's a few apolitical YouTubers I watch, and whenever they mention like a gay person or something, they'll always get like conservative trolls and they're like, okay, I gotta ban this person. Like it's crazy how rabid conservatives are right now at this point in time. So I think it's important to like as you said, you're not extremely politically aware and you don't know everything. You don't know like every aspect of the conversation that someone like Destiny might be having with someone that he's debating. But that's a still like just because you have like this basic morality of like let's kind of treat people like real human beings and not be prejudiced against them. That I think that basic morality can take you a long way in informing your viewers, and that might be like you might attract a different type of audience than someone like me who is a little bit more overtly political. Like my channel name is literally Uninformed
Yeah.
Leftist. So like and then I think it's important to come at it with from different angles. So you
I
have like Vosh, who's like, "Oh, I'm a debate bro," even though that's not really what he does anymore. You have Hasan, who's like a himbo, and then Sam Cedar, who's just interviewing like court lawyers and asking them about different cases that they have, and like really dry stuff like that. I think it's important to cover this stuff from all aspects.
I think the worst aspect too for me is that there's an idea where it's like, okay, the minimal representation you generally have with leftist advocates or liberal advocates, even, I mean, like, not that they're, helping all that much,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I know what you mean.
it's like some of them turn out to be like total fucking freaks, and it's like, oh, like that just gives you like it gives right the people on the right, even though they're freaks themselves, like an excuse to like
Yeah.
basically write off the entire like thought process of like, hey, why is it okay to like like what's wrong with our economy, like why shit on gay people, why shit on trans people, like instead of looking at the facts or whatever. It's like, oh no, like they're freaks, so like what they represent is just freaks, which is a very ignorant perspective, but nonetheless, you know.
Yeah. There's always going to be people that are kind of drawn to that stuff because they do have prejudice from growing up and being told that, like, yeah, you're better than these other people, and then you want to believe that, or even if you might have feelings like that yourself and you want to double down and be like, okay, well, I'm not like that. I don't have any kind of queer tendencies. very, I'm very confident in my heterosexuality and my cisgender, even though they would never say cisgender or heterosexuality, but they'd be like, I'm a man, I'm a man and I like women, and then it's like they might have that kind of
To acknowledge
kind of shame that
cisgender,
they're
they would have to acknowledge like trans people as
oh
like
yeah,
a legitimate thing.
impossible.
Like that's the reason it's like, oh, that's a slur now. Like you can't call us that. Like because it's only a slur in terms of like you are comparing us, the quote unquote normal people, default normal people, to your experience as a trans person or whatever. Like it's just it's quite interesting.
No, yeah, it would be impossible for them to acknowledge that they're cisgender.
Before we end our conversation, I kind of want to touch on like the H3 stuff a little bit further.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think the first thing I like kind of want to like talk about is like going a little bit more in depth on the blatant hypocrisy. It seems like pretty straightforward to me that when you talk about Gila being a IDF, soldier in her past, or if she's not, in the very least, a secretary, it doesn't really matter. Like she participated in the IDF. There's like two things that get brought up as well. It can't be as bad as being a brown like Houthi terrorist because one, she was only a secretary, and two, she was forced to do it, which I find quite funny that you can't just specifically say like how do you know like that Houthi terrorist or quote unquote terrorist freedom fighter that's defending himself wasn't forced into what he's doing, or even if he's
Right.
got forced by like the people that are above him, just forced in terms of protecting self-defense. So it does seem like there's merits to the idea that like the hypocrisy is blatant. It's more so we won't acknowledge Gila as a terrorist by our own definitions, primarily because we allow Israel to do what they're doing. It's very blatant. I'm so curious. How do you feel like? Is there any specific thing that you've ever thought of where it's like maybe this will remedy if like I can do this comparison, maybe somebody will snap out of it? Like, do you think there's like any way for someone to like understand the double standard there, or do you think it's like too far gone? I don't know, like because that's like super blackpilling if
Well, it is interesting because at this point, so it's interesting. Like Ethan Klein's audience does admit that there's a genocide going on. However, they like okay, the audience that he has left, so that's different than the audience he had when he first started attacking Hasan.
yeah.
Audience he has left does acknowledge that there's a genocide going on, and Ethan himself has even acknowledged the idea that IDF soldiers are kind of terrorists. And like, what's funny about that is like Gila's like, no, no, they're not. They're not terrorists. They're soldiers. And Ethan's like, okay, well, not you because you were just a secretary. And then you're right. Like, I wouldn't even like. Of course, it's hypocrisy, right? It's extreme how everything that Israel does is like hypocritical, and everyone that is defending Israel is extremely hypocritical.
Yeah.
But for Ethan, it's more of like a mental block at this point, where he's saying that oh, you're not a terrorist soldier. You were a secretary, and it's like, well, do you have a mental block of the story she told you where she literally went on a raid? And also, when does like being a secretary for terrorists not make you a terrorist? So there's that. I mean, of course, if we use the colloquial definition of terrorism, it would essentially be like enemies of the United States. So according to the U.S., like Israel is not a terrorist state because if we're going based off of the objective definition of terrorism, the United States would be the biggest terrorist state. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's just interesting because like hypocrisy is kind of like the lowest form of argumentation. And to be honest, I don't know what you can say to someone that is still a fan of Ethan and still defending him on what he says about Israel and Palestine and Hassan. Because at this point, Ethan isn't saying anything coherent about Israel and Palestine. been watching him now
kind of
for the better part
scatterbrained.
of. No, yeah, it's completely scatterbrained, and he started off attacking Hassan on his like he's being too active. His activism is going too hard against Israel, and it's like becoming anti-Semitic, according to Ethan. But then since then, he's added so much stuff to attack Hassan, and he's basically just like doing a character assassination on Hassan.
Yeah.
And I think that really takes out kind of all of the structure and kind of all of the goodwill that Ethan has for his like kind of defense of Israel comments or his defense of Israel arguments. It's like if you really wanted to defend Israel, why have you spent the better part of like the last quarter of the year of 2024 attacking Hassan for his bro tips, like his old bro tips videos that he did? Or why are you attacking him for not explicitly endorsing Kamala Harris? Like, it's so weird. If your main issue is that he's creating anti-Semitism, why are you talking about him on Ukraine? Or why are you saying that he's always had weird views? That's why I never should have done a podcast with him in the first place. When he'll fluctuate back and forth between saying that Hassan is my dear friend and Hassan's a scumbag who I regret ever associating with at all.
I
So
think,
yeah, I like Ethan's arguments don't have any real weight behind them at this
Yeah.
point. And I think the people that are still watching him are kind of like there's definitely people that are watching him just for the fun of it. But people that are watching him and taking his side, not only taking his side unconditionally, but taking his side unconditionally and then repeating his talking points and using them to attack people like Hassan or attack other people on the left
Yeah.
that are being pro-Palestinian. That like at this point it's kind of a cult. And it's kind of the same type of cult that you see with all Israeli defenders or all Israel defenders because it is just like it's an insistent on flattening the playing field and having a comparison between Hamas and Israel, and Hamas is equally as bad as Israel. And I think that's the greatest disservice that Ethan Klein has done in this entire thing against Hassan. Like, I don't get me wrong. I think Ethan has been extremely anti-Semitic in his attack on Hassan. He's flattened the Jewish population to basically be a monolith that, of course, supports Israel. He said like 95, 96% of Jews support Israel, which is just a lie. And that is a rhetorical weapon used by people that defend Israel to brandish anti-Semitism as a shield for criticism of Israel. And so if you criticize Israel, you're criticizing the entire Jewish population, and you can only a bigot would criticize the entire Jewish population. So are you a bigot by criticizing Israel? And that's causing real anti-Semitism. Zionism is a major cause of anti-Semitism. Like there's a reason that Jewish populations were living in the Middle East
Yeah.
peacefully with their non-Jewish neighbors for thousands of years until Israel decided to create an ethno-state in the middle of the Middle East, and then all of the Jews were driven from their homes because it's like, oh well, like there's a state saying that they're legislating based off of Jewishness. Why would we like have Jews living with us? And of course, I'm not saying that that's a correct response, but it's a it's not it's actually a foreseen response. Like that was the point of like the people that created Israel knew that it was going to cause pogroms and drive Jews out of these neighboring lands.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
think,
I don't know if I covered your question, but I
No,
do
no, I
want
think
to
you
talk to someone
did
that
pretty
is
well.
still defending Ethan. That is my next guest goal.
I think I want to point this out before I go into like why I think Ethan's a little bit more defensive. I think this is pretty blatant. I think you'd probably think this too. The first thing I want to point out is that I feel like there's this interesting thing where it's like I used to be a little bit more confused about, why are people mad at quote unquote SJWs are mad at liberalism or mad about people having grievances with how they're being treated or whatever. Why are people mad that people are complaining about it a little bit more? Why is there... Okay. It's not just that they hate, they want the status quo to continue or worse. It's that they're also agitated that there's progressive things happening because people are making it known. And I think they view that as a weapon, what they would call victimhood. Like the victimhood mentality of portraying like themselves as victims, righteously or not. And so what would happen is to fulfill their goals, white supremacists, the right will use ways of trying to portray themselves as victims, like Richard Spencer, basically being like, we're probably getting, genocided like over time, like a lot of black people are, mating with our white women or whatever, and white people will be like, we just want the white majority. So there's a victimhood mentality of like, we just want like white people to be okay. So I think there's a powerful thing happening too with being able to utilize your the Jewish experience of being in a Holocaust back then, using that as kind of an excuse of, okay, never again. So we can use that excuse to the lengths of like being able to perfectly craft ourselves as victims no matter what, even when we're doing like horrific fucking things to like Palestinian people or
it's
even
a way,
people.
It's a way to justify your actions.
Yeah. It's a powerful tool. And you see this actually with Ethan's actions, although it's not really working because of the audience he had. It's like he didn't understand his audience clearly, or I think he understood, but he was, I guess, willing to make the sacrifice. Whatever. Like his perspective is victimhood. He wants to project victimhood, and he wants to utilize that as a weapon. And I think there's an emotional attachment. I do think like to some degree he's like, okay, like I think what's wrong, it's wrong what's happening to the Palestinian people, but not at the expense of his comfort and at the Israeli people's comfort. Not at the expense of his wife, who has a child with, who was an IDF soldier. So there's a lot of emotional baggage. There's a lot of emotional attachment, and maybe this is a little like taking away a little bit of agency if I say this, but like I do think there's a larger influence that Hila gives to Ethan that probably escalated this situation 10 times more. That's just like an out there theory. I don't think it's all the way out there, but
like I definitely get comments like that on my videos, and while I cannot deny that, I can't deny that theory at all. At the end of the day, I just don't think it's really relevant. Like,
it's just an interesting thought process I had of like, why would he go this far? Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's interesting though, because like Ethan definitely, he consumes Israeli media by osmosis through his wife. And there's been some instances where that's glaringly obvious, like when he kind of talks about some half-baked Israeli news that's going on. It's like, okay, well, you don't really know what's happening. You just have a general feeling of what's happening, and like that makes sense. Like if his wife is watching Israeli media and it's like on in the background, then he might like listen to that while he's snoozing or whatever. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's really informed his opinion on Israel. Like Ethan's opinion on Israel is that it should be an ethno state, and he sees that as like like kind of a last line of defense for Jews, like in the entire world. And like maybe that is his view based off of his wife, but I think that Ethan did move to Israel, and he got brainwashed like a bunch of other people that grew up thinking Israel is like the bastion of peace and prosperity and democracy in the Middle East. And it is kind of the Jews that brought civilization onto this region of the world. and
Yeah.
it is your it's your birthright to move to Israel. You can live there if you want. You can defend it. And I think that's kind of the brainwashing that we're seeing from Ethan.
That's a way to get people invested. I think I can't recall the specifics, but they would have like hey, like you can come in here and like be. My cat's on my desk. Funny guy. And then they would try to court basically. It's just it's an interesting kind of tactic to get people that are Jewish a little bit more invested in Israel as a homeland. I think Ethan was one of those people for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then to go back to your question, like where to get good information on stuff. It's tricky. Like you can obviously just look at the news and that's going to have its own spin. You can look at people online and they're going to put their own spin on stuff.
Yeah.
I think like good I think that like one good way to have an understanding about something is to just read books on the subject and like do research on the books that you want to read on Israel, and whatever subject you're interested in, and try to find like read the reviews of the books, read book critics, and try to find the one that has the best reviews, because even if that book ends up being wrong, if it is highly rated, that's going to have information in it that kind of the public has digested and accepted as fact.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about like what is the truth, I don't know if we want to get like philosophical, but you do kind of need to operate underneath the same like rules of truth and information as the rest of society, and like it's kind of an interesting idea. And so yeah, you should read books about these things to get kind of, I think, like the best information on stuff. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then just
I had started what was it? I think it was just simply called Gaza. It was by I can't remember his name. Norman Finkelstein right now. I started that book.
okay.
And then
Yeah, I need to read more books on Israel and Palestine.
yeah, I
to
was
be honest
trying to
with you.
look for more authors. I swore there was this book. Apparently, it got taken down. I don't. It was the book that Joe Biden apparently got way too late to read.
Oh yeah, like by Elon Pape, I think.
I read a little bit of that, but yeah, it's like a. I think it's one of those things where it's like I'm going to like probably like for books specifically, just like sit down and like just like invest like that time.
Yeah,
And then
something that's really helped me is audiobooks.
yeah, I think audiobooks. I think audiobooks is very good for me to like hearing the names, hearing how things are pronounced more specifically, like getting a little bit more of a feel. Yeah, easier to digest for me. One of the things I had like an argument with somebody, and they're basically suggesting that social media taints your perspective, and kind of makes you disoriented, which I don't necessarily disagree with entirely, but there was an important aspect where I said, okay, so what's a good way of learning about this stuff? Aside from like books and, like general like articles, he was like, look at specific news media outlets. And the concern came from like, not that you can't find factual information from news media outlets, but there obviously has been examples in the past where, there are certain outlets that describe Palestinian deaths as, more of a inconvenience or an accident or something to take away from the like intention and tragedy, the real horror of what happened to them. And then like, compare that to what happens to Israeli deaths as those Israeli people were mass murdered or destroyed. There were specific biases. So my concern is like usually it's like, okay, what media outlets? And it's like hard to really gauge who's like being like fair and honest and like how can I gauge that? So I don't know if you have any recommendations for specific sites that I would find more trustworthy for stuff like this or anything like that. Do you have a?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely need to like come up with a more consistent media diet myself.
Yeah.
Like especially when it comes to reading articles, but just in general, I do kind of agree with your friend that social media can be disorienting,
Oh yeah, for sure.
and it's not.
I agree with him to an extent too. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I would just say that it's not a bad idea to obviously consume multiple different sources of media. However, I don't think it's a bad idea to have like a set amount of like a set kind of roster of media that you consume, because I do think it's very easy to get sucked into a rabbit hole online. Like the algorithm is incentivized to um especially like on social media, not just when you're browsing articles, but the algorithm is incentivized to promote more and more kind of extreme content, and it's kind of incentivized to recommend different content to you as well, to see like keep churning out new sources of content and keep getting creators invested and listeners and like audience members invested in new people. So it is incentivized to kind of like draw you deeper into weirder spots on the internet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea to be like, okay, well, I read this article or I watch this show and I think they're good. I'm going to like watch that, and then I might dabble with some other people, see what they have to say, and like kind of have like a touchstone, like a place that you can come back to. And even if that person might end up being wrong, maybe you can like cross compare with a different person that you might be listening to, and then be like, okay, well, I think this person's a little bit better. Let me go on that person's. Let me check out that person, and like definitely, I think that's healthier than potentially like dramatically changing your views over the course of a few months. Like if
Yeah.
you gradually change your views, at least you're going to be slower to either deconvert from like conservatism or to get more radicalized into conservatism. But yeah, that's kind of like my strategy, and I don't know.
Yeah, thankfully,
Obviously, I'm biased, but I feel like it worked out for me.
thankfully in my life I've never had like this like strong attachment to conservative ideals or anything like that because I've always felt like there was a underlying kind of cruelty to those ideals are the outcomes usually. So I never like sat right with me. Even when I think at my worst, I had like some certain tendencies to be reactionary, and I think I still have tendencies to be reactionary to this day. For example, like
Give me an
I don't know
example.
how you feel about this yourself, but I would imagine your audience wouldn't be like super fond of like the R slur being like something like that. I say or anything like
Oh,
that.
like saying the R slur.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like in my
probably
mind
not
it's like
the
one of those
best.
things where it's like here's how I think of it, where it's like I always think of it as like another way of calling someone stupid. It's never like really
Yeah.
changed in my head.
Look, I don't
yeah.
think that's a reactionary tendency. I think that's just like a little bit politically incorrect, but
Sure,
I
yeah.
wouldn't call something politically incorrect that's a habit you have as reactionary.
Sure, okay.
Just because kind of the culture has moved past it. It's like calling someone homeless versus unhoused. It's like if you call them homeless, is that reactionary? I wouldn't beat yourself too much over that, but I see what you mean. Like yes, you're not on the cutting edge of kind of progressive politics.
And yeah, and with certain things, it's like I don't actually want to move because I actually don't feel like it should be like the case, and like I know that's probably like kind of like a little not cruel, but like careless of like the feelings of others because I know it can
Right,
affect
yeah.
people in specific ways. So I'm not denying that, but as a person who is autistic himself or anything like that, it's never had
Oh, you have the pass then. What are you what are you worried
yeah, but
about? You're good.
people don't care about the passes nowadays. Like people don't care.
Yeah, it's like if I have a big nose, do I get the Jewish pass? Like I could be Jewish. No one knows.
Yeah.
But
Well, I don't want to take too
yeah.
much of your time if you got other things to do or
No,
anything
yeah,
like
this
that.
was a
But
fun conversation.
yeah, yeah.
Thanks for having it with me. Do you want to just shout out your channel again, and then I'll post a link into the description of this video.
Sure, yeah. James Emery, you'll be able to find me at James Emery 6. I do live streams only. I don't have an editor or anything. I can't afford one. I'm just making
God,
content.
yeah.
Anything that interests me. I lean towards, I've been talking more about Israel Palestine, but I'm also been talking about the CEO thing that happened to Luigi. I'm about to cover
Yeah,
Matt
that's
Gates'
interesting.
exploits and stuff like that. So yeah,
Right. All right, man. Well, that's cool. And yeah, don't one thing that I've been wanting to do with everyone that I've been interviewing is like trying to build a network of people that would be down to do non-political content too,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and stuff like that. So like video games, just like chatting too, stuff like that. So yeah, we'll keep in touch over Discord.
You know, what's one game? What's one game that would be cool eventually in time is that it's harder for me apparently to find people who want to play it like and have actual like live streams that would actually be fun to watch for other people. Is Among Us is a good game for stuff like
I've
that.
never played it, but
It's pretty fun.
heard good things. All right, man. Well, thanks for stopping by, and I really appreciate you checking out my channel. It means a lot to me to um, hear how much you've been enjoying my coverage
Yeah,
of
no,
the
I
H3
appreciate the
breakdown and stuff.
I appreciate the content. Like I came here as a fan first instead of just a you know fellow content creator.
All right, sweet. Well, I'll see you later. Thanks for stopping by.
Later, man. Have a good one. Thanks.
Yeah, you too. All right, well, I stopped recording. That was fun.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Fuck. I thought you were live streaming that. I mean, I'm live streaming on my end right now, just to be clear.
Oh,
But yeah,
that's fine. No, yeah, I usually I
I
could
forget
have
that
been
you
live
record
streaming.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably post it tomorrow. I don't like you don't really care if I don't edit it at all, right?
Oh no, absolutely not. Like this one won't be edited, so I don't expect you to edit yours if you don't want to.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, I think I'm gonna. I do want to start live streaming more though.
Dude, live
Like
streaming's
at
fun.
night.
Like even if like I'm so fucking like I have like one or two people, three people, but I do get regulars that are like actually like, oh, I like you, like you're cool, and then like that's always a good feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to do with the, because you know, like the leftist mafia, where
Yeah.
you ever seen that stuff, where it's like the Humanist Report, Rational National, some of the guys from the Majority Report, like Matt Binder, and then some other people will like sometimes do a podcast together, like once
Oh
every
yeah,
couple
yeah,
weeks.
yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, like I kind of want to do something like that, where it's like, oh, we all have a free night on like a Friday or something. Let's chill and record some content, like playing video games or
Yeah.
stupid stuff like that.
I yeah, I come from the space where it's like fucking these people like I'm just trying to like kind of remove myself away from that space over time. It's like an addiction almost. You're like, "Oh, I like just drama content, this like slop," but like, like it becomes more and more apparent that you're like, "Man, my values don't align with these people," and I feel bad actually watching this sometimes where it's like, like I don't know why I'm supporting these creators.
Yeah, yeah, I know it kind of gets that way too. Anyway, I'm gonna probably hang up, but yeah, it was nice talking to you. You seem pretty cool, and it was a fun conversation too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, just let me know if you want to collaborate in the future or whatever. Like, if you have any ideas, stuff like that. Like, yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, sure. All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Later, bro.
Talk to you later.
Bye. Okay. That was fucking fun. That guy's chill as fuck. I like his content a lot. Anyone that's watching right now, go check out Uninformed Leftist. Despite the name, he's actually quite informed, and he's actually quite calm, quite chill. Good reaction content, very thorough. Yeah, knows more about all this stuff than I do. As far as I'm aware, I think he does. It seems like he does. I think after this game, we might cover Matt Gates. Either we cover Matt Gates now, or we cover Matt Gates. Well, tomorrow's Christmas. We could do a Christmas stream. We could do a Christmas stream of Matt Gates. I think that would be pretty fun. Let's turn on the volume a little bit higher here. Nice. I had somebody in chat that was commenting. I think they were a DGG or at least more of a Destiny fan than otherwise. No shot. He was only sexting for like 5 months, and he was saying a stalker like 1 to 2 years ago. So you have to remember within the context of like what was happening, he was actually within those 5 months of them sexting, he was still calling her a stalker publicly. Literally talks to everyone. Yes, he literally talks to everyone. Also, like, this is a good thing about his content, but it's also clearly like, it's good in the sense of like, he's always got content to make. He's always growing his platform. It's more beneficial to him than it really is, Yeah, it's more so about the content. That's the best way to put it. It's more so about the content than actually changing minds, I think, at the end of the day for him. Like, obviously, there's a competitive side where it's like, I want to win debates. Like, I want to make people look stupid. But not at the expense of, like, bridges that are huge, like, Ben Shapiro. Because if it was really, like, if he was a little bit more passionate and he was willing to go a little bit more hardcore, like, I think he would have been willing to burn that bridge with Ben if it was really more about, changing minds and making your opponent look at like stupid. Like, if you can do both, then like do it, but like, clearly, Ben Shapiro is not the kind of guy who likes to be challenged. Try to talk and try to convert their audience. There is an idea of, I want to convert some of their audience, but again, it's more so about like making more content with people that are on the level of like Nick Fuentes. It's more about like what kind of content can I make with this kind of person in the future. Like it's not like really genuinely invested energy in terms of, I want to like destroy my opponents and make sure their careers are non-existent. It seems like he'd be like, even with Hasan, he's more willing to like say like, I'd be willing to do content with Hasan. Like, yeah. Also, you have to keep in mind, regardless of the time frame, let's say that that's true precisely, which it's not. What he was doing with Anna was still wrong, where she blatantly says, hey, like, could you like help repair my relationship to the community, like how everyone views me? Can you do that for me? And then he takes that opportunity and takes advantage of her by suggesting, yeah, maybe I'll get around to it if you tease me more sexually. Like, you know, it's creepy, it's abusive, it's not behavior you want to engage in. And if you ever have engaged in, you should change that. You should change that. Sincerely, I'm telling you sincerely. Like, don't do that to women. Yeah, I think I will do Matt Gaetz tomorrow, actually. I think that would be good. Because I do want to kind of make the stream more about, more condensed. We'll cover this tomorrow. In the matter of allegations relating to Representative Matt Gaetz. It's about 42 pages. And I don't feel like reading it all today. But yeah, I think we're gonna stop here. Okay.
You have to admit, I seem like a pretty trustworthy person. I will slather fucking diarrhea all over my face.
Totally fair.
Let's be real. Children are slaves. Don't you think the country would be a better place if we took every disabled person and just killed them all?
So you apologize for it. So this is an apology, but just with a fist, right? Because like after the hit, then
No,
like,
I
now
still
suddenly
wouldn't.
this
I
is
still never apologize.
You still wouldn't apologize?
No, I would hit my wife and then not apologize. Look, I could be a military commander and you couldn't. That's all I've learned from this conversation. I'm willing to kill. What I don't like about your argument is the implication that people don't like black people for no reason. Throughout their lives, black people, 10% are likely to just randomly mug somebody on the street. 10% of them, they just tend to do this. I really want to be a cop so I can kill black people. Do you still want to discuss one of these three topics?
I'm not going anywhere. Sure.
Well, I was more asking if are you going to eject me or are we?
No, I'm not ejecting you. I just don't know. I mean, you know,
the slaves were freed. In one lens, you can see it as a great success, and in another, you can see it as a momentous failure.
Respond to that.
My penis is the yardstick by which all human sexuality is defined. We should want everybody to get raped as much as possible. I want to masturbate with your blood. Good afternoon, boys and girls. Today we're going to talk about sex. More specifically, we will be discussing the myth of the female orgasm. Saying that sex should feel good to women is like saying it should feel good to a trash can when you throw garbage into it. I mean, I could fuck a porcupine.
Come off as a slippery slope, that sort of thing, but
I like incest.
I don't,
what it means
is necessarily
matters.
I like
I don't
incest
necessarily
porn.
think that
I like
that's pretty.
I like incest porn.
Yeah,
but I like incest porn. I like
yeah, but I find
I like
AI generated
I like
open
incest
market.
porn.
It would be
I like incest porn.
child.
I like incest porn.
Create.
I like incest porn. I like incest porn. No, you don't know. You don't get it. I like incest porn.
Here's something to consider.
No, I like incest porn.
Yeah, we know you do. Great.
No,
I have an actual.
No, wait.
I think he has a real point. What do you want to make?
I like incest porn. I like incest porn. In addition to being a pedophile, you're a little bitch. I am like the Hitler of pedophilia.
We can't condone pedophilia.
I do condone pedophilia.
Oh, fuck.
I'd like to be the first deep fake child porn star.
I don't want to do this. I am quitting the interview, and I do not want any of this to be in the fucking video.
Okay, do you want to play Smash?